Good morning, Dover-Sherborn, and welcome to the Roundtable. I'm your host, Alex Capillion, and we have my two usual co-hosts, Raheel and Theo, but we have a very special guest with us today, Mrs. Sullivan, our athletic director.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for coming on.
Yeah.
For our first question, we had a great fall sports season. Can you give us a quick review of how our teams did?
Yeah. So as I think about it, I would start with probably the soccer teams. Both soccer teams had really good seasons. The boys really improved from the start and won a bunch of games at the end, and then ended up winning a playoff game, so they made it to the Sweet 16. The girls had a phenomenal regular season, and they lost in the first round, but overall had a really great season. The field hockey team were underdogs all year. They ended up making it to the Elite Eight and lost to the state champions, Watertown. And the golf team, obviously, were state champions. So they started us off really well, winning the state championship for the first time ever in school history, which was really great to see. Tim Hill had a really good day. Sean Scannell, Jack Potter, those three really had great days to win it for us, along with Ben Schroeder, Owen Bingham, and then Ethan Lynch was our alternate there. And then, probably the cross-country teams would be next. They had a great season. The girls won the TVL Small, and they finished fourth at states, which was the best they've done in school history. They had a great team. The boys finished second in the TVL and finished 12th at states. And then our football team had the best season in school history, going 9-2, winning their first playoff game, winning the TVL for the first time since 1978, and beating Medfield on Thanksgiving, which was really fun.
Yeah. That was a great game to be at. That was really fun.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
Sounds like business is booming.
Business is definitely booming in the fall. We hope it continues in the winter.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Miss Sullivan, how is it having sports back full time?
Oh, it's awesome. So this season looks so much different than last year in that outside sports don't have to wear masks, which was great, but also we're just playing full schedules. We're playing 20-game schedules for our sports instead of 10-game schedules. We're playing non-league games. We have tournaments back. It just really feels like we're getting back to normal, and it's awesome. I know the student athletes were psyched to have full game schedules back after last year.
Yeah.
I think as students, too, it's great for us having that kind of, like, the aspect of school sports back and more regular, like, I don't think I went to any football games last year that felt like they, really did. But this year it was a lot more normal, and it was, we kind of had that student atmosphere.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a whole other difference that we didn't have last year was the fan zone. Most games last year you guys couldn't go to.
Yeah.
And this year we have the fan zone back, and it's just made a huge difference in the game atmosphere.
Mm-hmm. Ms. Sullivan, this year Dover-Sherborn won the AMES Award for the first time in school history.
Mm-hmm.
What can you tell us about that?
It's a great honor. So the Boston Globe does, they name it, I think the D1 award is called the Dalton Award, and the D2 award has a different name. The D3 award has a different name. So the Division 4 award is the AMES Award. So it's the Boston Globe All Scholastic AMES Award for Division 4, and you're basically the most winningest program in the state to win that award. So it's the first time DS has ever won it. So last year we had a winning percentage of 69 point something. Westport was second. I think they had 67%. They win it quite often. So it was our first time that we had ever won it, and it's basically stating in our division for schools our like size, we're the winningest program last year.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
As a whole. So all your sports, from football to track to tennis, everything combined.
Oh, yeah. That's how we do.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And I know we lightly addressed it earlier, but how were the fan zones and, the attendance for the games this weekend? I know I was always there.
Yeah, the fan zone was great. Probably in my 3 years here, the best I've seen since I've been here. And I know a lot of our coaches and teachers that help me work games and parents who've been around a long time said the same thing. Probably the biggest fan zone. We had alumni come back and say, holy cow, this is the best fan zone I've ever seen. So definitely the most well attended. Your fan zone captains have been really great to work with. Miss Keegan and I have talked to them a couple times just about remaining good sportsmanship, and they did a really good job with, disseminating that message to everybody. But I thought the fan zone was great, and I hope it continues throughout the winter.
Yeah, I think it was definitely a successful season with that. Everyone did a great job with the fan zone.
Right,
sure.
Yeah, definitely the most. I've never seen the stands so packed. So much that we had to bring in the baseball stands, and then the pep band came. So it was a lot of fun.
Oh yeah, that was great too. I think we should definitely do that in the future too. Having the band at the game was cool.
Yeah, so the pep band, Miss Berry is lined up for them to come for quite a few of our basketball games. So they'll be even louder inside, which will be great.
Yeah.
That'll be awesome. Good to hear.
Miss Sullivan, we had 2 students sign with Division I teams the other week. Can you tell us about them?
Yeah, they're 2 phenomenal student athletes, 2 females. So we have Rachel Herman, who's playing soccer at Penn. Just a great soccer player, a great student athlete, very tough school to get into academically. And then Avi Yablonsky, who's just like one of the most incredible athletes I've ever seen, is going to swim at Minnesota. So she's going to go be a Golden Gopher. She actually had swim times this summer that qualified for her for the Olympics.
Wow.
If she had made that deadline. So she's just an unbelievable swimmer as well. So the swim team is a team I would definitely watch for this winter. Boys and girls should both be very good.
Moving on to a little bit of a different topic. Ms. Sullivan, what would you say were some of the highlights of our football season?
Oh my gosh, there's so many.
Last season.
Yes, the whole season. And it was really a great fall 2 season, which was really fun to have that season in April and then jump right into it in August.
Yeah.
So they start, way before school starts, August 20th. I think one exciting start was that coach was able to get Brian Olson to join the team. So that was a really good pickup for him. I know coach is always recruiting in the hallways and on the baseball team and who he can get to join the team. So Brian was a great addition. And then throughout the season, they started really strong. Their non-league opponents, if you added up the 3 scores, it was probably close 100-0. I think they shut them out almost every game. Maybe one they scored. Mm-hmm. And then you jump into non-leagues, which the TVL is a pretty strong league in this small. So they had a great game against Dedham to start us off. Dedham's always really tough. They had a great game against Medway, and then they hit a roadblock against Bellingham, which is always a really tough school to go travel to. It's a little bit further of a drive, and they're just a really tough group of kids at Bellingham. So the boys hit a bit of a roadblock there, but they really didn't let it break them. They had this motto all year called bend, don't break on defense, and I think you saw that in that Bellingham game where they bent a little bit there, but then they rebounded and then won the rest of the season and ended up winning the TVL and then beating Watertown in the playoffs and then having a great game against Swampscott, who just won the state championship 2 days ago. So, and they beat North Reading by 7. They beat us by 13. So I think the boys were happy to know they were right in it with some of the best teams in the league. They just got a really tough draw in that Elite 8 game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely.
But they played a great game. Johnny Bennett was TVL small MVP. He's a great player on offense and on defense. Brian Olson was an all-star. Dan Sullivan was an all-star. Henry Murphy, I think, is kind of an unsung hero of that team, where he really plays tough and through a lot of injury. And then he also plays on all 3 sides of the ball, where he's our kicker. He's on offense and he's on defense. So he's just a really tough kid. Derek Daly, Brian Kane were both really good captains as well. So they just had a great season of a lot of different kids stepping up. Makai Robinson had a really good season. Ifos Amade was probably our second leader in touchdowns. Just a really nice group of kids who were very unselfish and just worked towards a bigger goal than just doing well themselves. So couldn't be prouder of them. Coach Ryan also won a ton of awards for being Coach of the Year. So he just had a great year, and his staff is just a really good group of men that work really hard.
Yeah. That's good. You always love to see that.
Yes, and then obviously the Thanksgiving game, which was a great game. They won 39-8.
Yeah. And speaking of the Thanksgiving game, what were the highlights of that game against Medfield?
Yeah, it was a great game. Also, the boys, I think, were a bit nervous in that they had such a great season. They were worried that this maybe would be an upset and what a letdown that would be after such a great season. So they really wanted to start out strong, which they did. I think John Bennett had 2 touchdowns on offense, 1 on defense. Ifosa had a great game. Mackay had a big interception. Brian Olsen played the trumpet national anthem before the game and then went on to play in the game, which was probably the highlight for me. I just thought that was such a cool thing for a student athlete. Oliver Freed used to do it a lot where, he played the trumpet national anthem and he told me, Miss Sullivan, I'm just so nervous. I'm like, you're nervous for the game? You're a 3-sport athlete. Like, you never get nervous. He goes, no, I'm so nervous to play the trumpet. He's like, I think I'm going to puke. So, yeah, he did a great job, and then he jumped right into it and played a great game, too. And Dan Sullivan, I think, doesn't get as much credit as he deserves as the quarterback. He really had a great season and played a really, really good game that game, too.
Yeah. Miss Sullivan, how does the football fit into your Thanksgiving family tradition, if at all?
Yeah, it has my entire life, probably, because of my dad. So we always have a game on Thanksgiving, usually. Whether we were at A&M, the long-time tradition before they joined the SEC was for them to play Texas. And they had a big bonfire, which is now stopped for safety reasons. But so when we were at A&M, we'd play Texas on Thanksgiving. Or when we were in Green Bay, we often would go to the Lions because the Lions have the Thanksgiving game. So we would almost always be playing on Thanksgiving. So Thanksgiving Day is usually just centered around football and our family and then maybe a meal after later in the day. So really now being an AD and working on Thanksgiving, it's not that much different. My husband cooks at home, which is really nice. And then I work the game and then I go home after and we enjoy football and food after, but I love working the game. I think it's such a cool tradition that Massachusetts and only Massachusetts does. I lived in Texas. My brothers played Texas high school football. I lived in Wisconsin where I played high school sports, and this doesn't exist anywhere else. So I just think it's a really cool tradition that Massachusetts does, and I hope it sticks around forever because I just think it's such a cool thing for these guys and then also the alumni and the students to be able to have something to do in the morning. I just think it's a really cool tradition.
Yeah, there's like a huge turnout at the Thanksgiving game.
There was. Tons of alumni, a lot of the class of 2021s. We recognize them for that AMES Award. It's a great time to see everyone and for you guys to see the kids who graduated last year and see how they're doing. And then a lot of parents come, and it's just a really nice event that I hope continues.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ms. Sullivan, as we go into the winter sports season, which sports are you most excited to see play?
Basketball.
I'm excited for all of them. I really try and not to have a favorite. I played basketball my whole life, so I help the girls team quite a bit when I can with Coach Klubda. So I'll go out there, and I've helped them a little bit this week. They look really good, probably the best team we've had. For sure since I've been here, but Coach said since she's been coaching here. So they've just a really strong group of underclassmen. We have very good freshmen, Eliana Scalabrini. She'll be very good. Very strong group of sophomores. The junior class is very good. And then Reese O'Connell as a captain for the seniors. She'll carry us quite a bit. But the girls team looks really good. The boys also look good. They're in they had a very strong senior class last year, so Coach Grady graduated quite a few of his main players, but we still have Luke Rinaldi, Dan Sullivan, Zach Spellman, Ethan Lynch, and then a whole bunch of sophomores. The sophomore class for the boys is stacked. I think Coach sent me the roster this morning, and he's got 5 sophomores up on varsity.
Wow, that's really great.
So maybe a bit of a rebuilding year, technically, but I think we'll still be very competitive. The boys are a very athletic group of kids who play basketball all the time. Luke Rinaldi is always on social media posting some video on Metro West of him dunking. And so there'll be a very, very competitive year, even though on paper it might look like a rebuilding year, I think the boys are going to be really fun to watch. And they get to play at the Garden this year.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
They're going to play Dedham at the Garden on January 16th at 5:30.
That's really cool.
That's really cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so that'll be really fun to go to. And then if you look at like our boys and girls ice hockey teams, the boys ice hockey team also graduated. For us, one Weston player, but Billy Rooney, Standish Crothers were both really good players for us.
Yeah.
So we have now a very young team, but from what the coaches have said, a very deep team. So I think it'll just be a little bit different of a team, but still very competitive. And then the girls co-op with Hopkinton. So it's actually Hopkinton is the host team, but we have 6 girls on that team from here. Abby Wayne, who else? Avery Bent was one of the best players last year. So they should do well with Hopkinton. And then I think our swim teams are going to be really good. Our boys swim team looks very deep. And then the girls swim team, obviously with Ava there, but then you have Irene Yang, who's really good, Ella Soska. So the girls swim team should be great. Our alpine teams are going to be really strong. So it's actually probably one of our biggest alpine teams we've ever had. So our alpine team should be very strong with, I think it's 17 boys, 15 girls on that team. And then, let's see, what else am I missing? Nordic, the girls have a strong team. They have about 20 girls on there. Boys only have a handful of boys doing Nordic, but they should be good. Gymnastics co-ops with Medfield. So we have a handful of gymnasts that go over to Medfield, and they're always very strong. And then our indoor track team should be really good. Our boys team is always very strong. They should continue to be strong with Johnny Bennett, Ryan Kane, a lot of boys from the football team that do indoor track, but our girls indoor track team is much improved.
Yeah.
They have probably twice as many girls as they used to. They were able to pick up a couple soccer girls that should really help them. Tessa Broderick, Corinne Foreman is just a really good distance runner. So the girls indoor track team should be great too. I think our indoor track team will probably be some of our most successful, if I had to guess.
Yeah, and speaking of those multi-sport athletes, are there any specific players we should be watching from this fall that may be going into winter or spring sports?
Yeah. Let's see. Dan Sullivan with boys basketball is a great multi-sport athlete.
Oh, yeah.
Erica Hills with girls basketball is a great cross-country runner and probably one of the best players on our girls team. John Bennett is just a phenomenal athlete in football, but then he goes to indoor track and he runs a great 55 and does anything really his coach / mom tells him to. Indoor track for girls, I'd say Corinne Foreman is a big one to watch. Katie Ritzer, she played field hockey and now is doing indoor. Corinne is a 3-sport runner, just a really phenomenal runner. The swim team tends to be swimmers. Like swim is one sport that they do seem to specialize. So I know a lot of those kids just swim all year round. Let's see, what else? Alpine, Ella Luskow is a very good soccer player and a very good alpine skier. She would be one to watch. That's a multi-sport athlete. Trying to think. Ice hockey, I think, is mostly, they're just starting to play ice hockey. Abby Wayne, Avery Bent for the girls team. They're multi-sport athletes. They're both really good girls ice hockey players.
Brendan O'Neill, is he?
Oh, yeah,
he on the
plays
ski
the
team?
guy.
Yes.
And he was on the soccer team too this year. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So we have a ton of multi-sport athletes, which is really great. It's tough, I think, on injuries and just your overall burnout if you're just focusing on one sport. Obviously, if you're a Division I athlete, sometimes it does work. But if you look at a lot of the NFL players, NBA players, and you ask them, like, what other sports did you play in high school? Almost all of them played 3 sports.
Yeah, that's how it goes with those athletes.
Yep.
Miss Sullivan, what are your favorite?
Last question.
All right. Are you big on skiing and snowboarding? If so, what mountain?
Oh, God. No, I'm not. I wish I was. I, slip up the hill when I go there to watch the teams compete. I've been skiing, twice in my life. One was for a dare trip in 8th grade in Wisconsin. So Wisconsin's a lot like here, and that skiing is very big as a winter state. It gets very cold and a lot of snow. So I was in 8th grade in Green Bay, and we went on a dare trip, and I went skiing. I fell down like the hill. My dare officer was terrified that I broke my back, and I've never been since. Yeah, playing basketball, usually our coaches would tell us you can't ski because it's like you might tear your ACL, hurt your knees. So usually because of basketball, I never did get into any winter sports. No one in my family really plays. No one played hockey, skied, snowboard. We were all pretty much basketball in the winter. So, yeah. But I love going. I love watching and seeing how, whether it's Nordic or Alpine, it's amazing what they do.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is really. Well, I think that's all we have for you folks today. We had a great show today. Thanks again for making the time to come out here.
Yeah, for
Sullivan. Well, I think that's a wrap. Thank you, Dover-Sherborn, and good night.